Please unmute, Dr. Smith. Unmute.
Kenneth, Alicia, y'all could come on. Welcome this evening to Delta's Building Democracy for Legislative Day, for Black Policy Day, and it'll also supply us with some wisdom for our communities. I am Dr. Shaniqua Smith, a restorative practitioner, and also the co-collaborator of Black Voters Impact Initiative. Black Voters Impact Initiative is to embrace, educate, and support people in their voting, but most importantly, to build up civic engagement, because voting plus action equals power. And I'm also honored to be a member of the dynamic sorority Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And I'm honored to serve through the Charleston Institute Alumni Chapter, which have been established since 1932 and is still going strong with serving our community. We welcome you tonight to our third series. And if you missed the prior to webinars, you can go to Black Voters Impact Initiative website. That's BVIIWV.com and get caught up on the past two. But now I'm going to open it up to my co-host tonight, Yvonne Lee, and allow our panelists to introduce themselves before we get into the knowledge of our learning in action. Dr. Yvonne Lee.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Yvonne Lee Long. I'm part of the illustrious Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, where I serve here in Charleston at Charleston Institute Alumni Chapter. I will be a co-host today, and I want to welcome everyone to this Delta Building Democracy. I currently serve as the chair of our Social Action Committee, and we look forward to you learning something here today. So I turn it back over to you, Dr. Smith, Spencer.
Well, hey folks, my name is Spencer Moss. I'm the executive director of the West Virginia Food and Farm Coalition. We engage in economic development as well as nutrition security, food security, both programmatically and at the Capitol. So thank you guys so much for having me. I'm looking forward to speaking and learning tonight.
And pass it over to Darrell.
Hey, hello, good evening, how y'all doing? Darrell Miller, founder, executive director, Keep Your Faith Corporation. I deal with a lot of this food system development, stuff like that. Thank y'all for having me tonight.
Alicia.
Hello, hi everybody. My name is Alicia Allen. I'm a licensed therapist and clinical director at Keep Your Faith Corporation. Oversee our licensed behavioral health center, and also dug into some community development work with another org that I represent, the Hub.
Thank you, Alicia. Kenneth.
Hey everybody, Kenneth Matthews, a person in long-term recovery, also a citizen organizer, community organizer as part of the American Friends Service Committee. I do work with many people of those in recovery and reentering society. And I'm based here in Charleston, West Virginia. And with that, I'll pass it back to Dr. Smith.
Well, thank you all for introducing yourselves. And the purpose of these webinars is for us to come together to learn the things that we need to learn to empower our communities. And not only come together collectively with our collective wisdom, but align ourselves with the resources and the support so we can sustain ourselves. And the actions we need. We definitely need to educate our lawmakers on what is what we need in our communities. Many of our lawmakers are in the position of the lawmakers of making laws, but they need to be educated on what is needed. So these webinars and also Black Policy Day is a space for us to become equipped so we can become knowledgeable on knowing what we actually need. These webinars, the topics of these webinars frame the social determinants of health, which is what the Black policy frameworks consist of. And we know the social determinants of health is the conditions that people work and play and live in that affects their physical and their mental health. So we want to come together collectively to share what is going on in our communities, how we can engage with legislator, and how we could come to collectively together to come together. So our first one, we're going to pass it over to Dr. Lee Long as she opened us up with our topics. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Good evening. And today we're going to talk about food insecurities. And I just want to give you a little bit of background on why we chose this topic. Currently, West Virginia has had the highest level of food insecurities in the first half of June. The census classifies a person as having food insecurities if him or her reported either sometimes or often not having enough food to eat. So just think about that. I want that to rest with you guys. West Virginia's food insecurity ranking was about 10% higher than the national average level, which was slightly more than 11%, and it was more than 3% higher than any other state. Mississippi reported at 18%. We're even higher than that. So today we're going to talk about food insecurities. I just want to give you a little bit of background why it is so important. And currently, right now, I just want to share this with you. West Virginia often ranks as having one of the lowest levels per capita income per household. When all the other states per capita is 64,000, West Virginia per capita income is less than $26,500. So I want that to rest there, just thinking about those numbers as we go through here and allow them to talk about food insecurities and what they're doing here in West Virginia and bring you some information. I want to turn it back over to Ms. Spencer and let her start.
Hey folks, I am gonna do a quick share my screen so that I can stay on task. But I'm just going to share about a couple of programs that Food and Farm and some of our partners are working on together, and just chit chat about what we're working on legislatively and even a little bit wider than that. So Turn Up the Beat on Snap Stretch is our little pun title here. For folks who don't know, I'll just flash up some photos here. I'll talk about our Snap Stretch program. Dr. Smith, you can see my slides progressing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Sometimes I have trouble with Acrobat. Okay, so very quickly, Snap Stretches are a program that we double and triple SNAP EBT dollars, or formerly food stamps, at farmers markets, on-farm stands, mobile markets, CSAs, and a growing number of local retailers. So that if you're a SNAP user and you go to one of their participating markets, if you're an adult, a single adult, we're going to match you 1 for 1. You spend 20, we're going to give you 20. If you have children present, you're going to spend your 20 SNAP dollars, we're going to give you 20 SNAP Stretch dollars, and you're going to get $20 in quote unquote kids coupons that your kids get to spend all for fruits and vegetables. And then of course, seniors also get that 1-to-2 ratio match. It's been an absolutely amazing program. I have some great numbers I'm going to share with you guys. Just really quickly, how it kind of works is if you go to a farmer's market, you're going to go to the market manager stand, say, I want to spend 20 of my SNAP dollars. They're going to swipe your card, give you your SNAP dollars, give you your SNAP Stretch dollars, and then you go about your day shopping at our local retailers. Most of them are going to take off a discount at the register. So it's just like if you were shopping with coupons. We continually try to innovate and make this as easy as possible, both for our partnering sites, but also the participants in the program. Also, just really quickly, we don't have our 2022 numbers by county yet, but I just want to show that there are a lot of counties in West Virginia that this program affects. And it not only affects because of the stretch part, but we're also capturing federal food assistance dollars at the county level and with local farmers and local businesses that otherwise would go out the door to Walmart or Kroger, and that most of those monies leave the state. My last sort of slide by numbers here is looking at the progression of the program. We started it in late 2018. A teeny amount of SNAP and SNAP Stretch went out the door. We grew a little bit in 2019. The pandemic hit in 2020, and the program just ballooned. Looking at the difference between 21 and 2022, honestly, we have hit a wall with the amount of funding that we have. Otherwise, that near $400,000 number would have been much, much higher, but we actually had to cap all of our participating sites this year, which we have not had to do in previous years. So what's going on? So what we've been working on is with partners. We have acquired ARPA or American Plan or American Rescue Plan dollars from both the city of Charleston. We applied for these funds with Keep Your Faith. So Alicia and Darrell will pop on here shortly and talk about that work. We got $1 million to work together on opening Miss Ruby's and Snap Stretch. So Snap Stretch will be available at Miss Ruby's Market when it's open. We also worked with one of our farmers and an additional local farmers market in Preston County to get $130,000 for that county for the season. Next year, we're going to go after $1 million, but it's going to take a lot of work among partners. Legislatively, really quickly, the Department of Agriculture has requested a line item in their budget to permanently fund this program. So it's amazing to have their support, but this is the third year in a row. And part of my slide is cut off here, but we do need more folks in community speaking out about this program, how it's affected both users of the program, farmers, markets, local retailers. All of that conversation really pushes the program forward. And I know Black Policy Day is coming up really shortly, but so is Local Food and Farm Day. So if anyone feels like coming out Local Food and Farm Day Eve at Charleston Capitol Market, we'll have legislators out and we just talk and have conversations. And then of course our lobby day is in the House Rotunda on February 7th. And then just one of our other food security programs is West Virginia Rural Grocer Network. So we offer assessment, technical assistance based on goals, and then network development. And, you know, grocers who are going through this process then have access to an equipment fund, a revolving equipment fund to help upgrade equipment pieces. We are always taking referrals. So if there's a rural grocer, you know, we'd love to pull them into the network, see if there's any way we can help them out. Startups, groups that are failing, groups that just want to grow, we can do it all. And we're trying our hand at holding resources with Keep Your Faith right now, and developing Miss Ruby's. So more to share with that, but maybe there'll be more opportunities to develop grocery stores in the future. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Smith. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this.
Thank you, Spencer, for sharing the work and the resources you're doing and also putting that information about SNAP, because we know most of the time that we hear that the SNAP dollars do not stretch for the end of the month. So to be aware that there's a program that where you can get double for your money and also healthy vegetables and fruits. And I hope that if someone have knowledge, we want to open it up, let you know that questions will be at the end. But if you're in the audience and there's some wisdom and knowledge that you know, put it in the chat so we all can capture that and make sure that we share that information. And also one thing that I know needs to be, a lot of times people don't know what to do with the vegetables. So we need to make sure that we create these spaces for people to understand how to cook these vegetables and incorporate this more healthier living into their lives. And also, before I have Darrell come, I think it's important too, Spencer, that you talk about the local work with the individuals, but also creating that space and having with the legislators so you can educate them and show them the importance of what this work is actually doing and get some individuals to buy on. So we thank you and your organization for the work that you're all doing. And with that, I will actually open it up for Darrell to talk to us and show us this model that many communities over time can work and actually incorporate into their communities. Darrell?
Hello, everybody. Well, we started really doing food. I'm gonna tell you, it was really we had our community Thanksgiving there. And that's what we was known for doing, but it was just to be our community. We would sit in the corner one day and just looking around and talking. There was dinners other places, but it wasn't none really on the west side. So we started doing it. But as that dinner went on, we was at the dinner, but then people from like Hurricane, St. Albans, and different places started coming. So that made us start looking at like, well, if they're traveling that far for a plate of food, how can we help a little bit more? So then we start approaching schools. We got a school-based garden where we did pop-up farmers markets. And the goal for the pop-up farmers markets was kind of get the kids without the parents, because sometimes when the parents are there with the kids be like, I like that. I'm like, you don't eat that. And they wouldn't get it. So it stopped. So we started just doing it at the schools and letting the kids come out and shop and then take their groceries home. But what that did is when parents would get the food, they're like, well, what are we supposed to do with it? There's a lot of younger parents, they didn't know how to cook some of the vegetables. So we started working with WVU Food and Family Nutrition Program. We started doing recipe cards and giving out to families so they can learn how to cook a little bit more. And then that just kept the conversation going about other things. And then the grocery store, I'm gonna tell you, the grocery store was really just supposed to be like a little, another box shed to go along with our farm. We got a local farm, which this year we'll be able to turn into a production location. We got some funds to do that, put up a high tunnel there and some cold storage, do some more classes out of there. But that's what the grocery store was going to be. But the Central Park Place building, it's been sitting there for a long time. I kept riding by, we ride by there a lot. And I just think about it. Then I said something to Alicia about it. And then we talked to Spencer. She's like, well, let's see. And so we worked with the city and things came out and we get that. And that right there, that building is going to be to me, it's going to be a great location for the community for things like I was just saying, where some people don't know how to cook versus prepare their vegetables, don't know certain things to eat. We're going to work a little bit with Health right down the street to kind of get a little healthier plan. They do diabetes classes on Thursdays down there, which is great for the neighborhood. They do like a cooking classes down there. So be able to share some kind of knowledge and tell people, show people what to grow, if they want to try to grow something, and what's the healthiest to eat. To me, I was talking to Dr. Smith about this the other day. I like to start off, if you're a first time grower, you really feel you ain't got a green thumb, start off with something easy to grow. I can't grow tomatoes. She grows tomatoes good. I'm gonna tell you what, I would not suggest to grow tomatoes for your starter plants, but some people do them good. But you grow something that you like. So then you would eat that, and then you start, well, what else can I do? And what else can I grow? And what else do I like? We've been able to help a lot of people put gardens in their own homes. That's important to be able to grow. But if to me, if you grow something, then Spencer grows something, and we get together, we can trade and kind of bargain a little bit, give you a little bit, I'll take a little bit. It's easy to grow some seeds. Seeds is like now they went up like $2.16. Certainly going to the store, you might get one item for about $2.16. You can grow a whole lot more. You just got to know what you like and take your time with it. Miss Ruby's Corner Market. We is over there today, just walking around and just doing some work in there a little bit. And the community, every time they see somebody come out that door, somebody comes and asks a question of what kind of grocery store it's going to be, what you're going to be selling, or how can we get involved. So we're going to have some dates where people can come get involved, help clean out, do some painting, things like that. But the community is excited about it. I think they're excited about it, not just because it's a grocery store, but something they can like call their own, like this is my corner market. I think that's important. The West Side, we got a lot of pride over there. We like to scream it. And to be able to say you got a grocery store over there and really helping people how to shop, learn what to eat, and try to work on your diet if you got high blood pressure and things like that. To me, I got a little top belly. I've been trying to figure it out. I don't know. I don't even eat a lot of meat, but my belly, the top part I'm working on it. But things like that, we're going to do exercise classes. I don't mind doing a little yoga with people. And just to spark the conversation, like Dr. Smith said, and just to get people aware of what's going on and what can they do. So then if they want to come some of these legislation days, they can come with some questions already in mind because they've been somewhere where they learned a little bit. And I don't know what that time is, but I'm gonna swing it to Dr.
All right, Gabriel. I love your work. I love your work, and I'm so proud of you and everything. I'm so proud of what you're doing in the community. And when I first met him, he's taught me a lot. I've learned a lot just through his visions and things like that. And I'm glad to be a part of Keep Your Faith. And you know what? And just what he said, it was so enlightening. Because my mother came right in my ear when you said it. They said, if you give a person a fish, he eats for a day. But if you teach him how to fish, he eats for a lifetime. And that's what you're doing to our community right now. You're teaching them and giving them the opportunity to eat for a lifetime. So I want to thank you again.
You're welcome.
Next up, Next up, I have the wonderful opportunity of introducing Miss Alicia Allen. But before I just let her come on, I just want to give a little background on behavioral health. That's something near and dear to my heart. I work up under her leadership as well as a therapist. And when we talk about food insecurities, we have to understand how they correlate and how they intersect with behavioral health. Poor nutrition constitutes depression, stress, people are agitated, and they're unable to eat. And so I want Alicia to come in and talk about her part because she is a great counselor and she does believe in feeding the mind. And right now, I mean, it's probably just natural that they brought in the food, to give up in the food insecurities. So I want to introduce Alicia Allen, let her come on and tell you a little about what she's doing. Thank you, Alicia.
You're welcome.
Mhm.
So yeah, my name is Alicia Allen. I'm the clinical director at Keep Your Faith, and like I said, oversee the behavioral health program. Under the guise of the nonprofit, and there are 3 cornerstone programs under Keep Your Faith. So we have our behavioral health center, which is a state recognized licensed behavioral health center that's trauma informed. We have about 10 therapists now. We have a 10-person staff today. We're hiring about hopefully 2 therapists within the month. So we're excited about that. And we have our food systems program and our workforce development program. I say that to say we got to the space of developing the behavioral health practice through our work with food insecurity and how that does tie into mental health, like some of the other panelists mentioned. We built in a horticultural therapy practice with what we were doing with gardening in the schools. And expanded that into clinical outreach, which grew into the behavioral health practice. And the reason there is so much intersect is because of the continuum of healthcare. It does constitute depression and anxiety and all the other things that were mentioned because of the outcomes of poor health. Obviously, with we don't have access to fresh foods and when you don't have access to fresh foods or the knowledge of nutrition or agricultural literacy or what to do with them, basically, I'm sorry, I'm getting caught up because I'm worried about the time span. I've never had to do the run of the show the way of speaking, so forgive me for tripping up on that. But pretty much I'm trying to highlight the way that we got to the behavioral health practice through the intersect in the work because of the health incomes in our community and Black and minority communities in particular. You see larger health disparities. So if you're dealing with things like diabetes, we saw that a lot with COVID and how those health issues were exacerbated at the higher incidences of death and loss and all of the other things that can lead to depression and anxiety, and living with those health issues obviously can cause, relate to mental health issues. And so when we were building out the clinical outreach program, and what we did was the structure of the behavioral health practice, we were able to connect with our county school district, and we were able to work with some of the same partners that we worked with when we were doing the community gardening pieces and the school gardening pieces to identify school counselors and social workers who wanted to be trained in their clinical work. And so I, myself, and 3 other supervisors have been able to train and oversee several therapists within our community schools. Well, like I said, school counselors and social workers, and move them through their clinical training and provisional period. So it's kind of double serves. We have clinically trained school counselors who are typically focused on school guidance and development, but in these high trauma exposed areas. And so with the training from the clinical practice, they're able to meet that need within the schools, but then also come back into the clinic and serve students and families beyond the school setting with ongoing treatment and therapy at the practice, which is within the target area. Also, we have a practice located in Charleston, but Spencer and Darrell mentioned the grocery store project, which will house Miss Ruby's grocery store. But the building itself is a multi-use development site. So the top floor will house community programming, including the the therapy practice. So we'll be able to expand that on into the target neighborhood, which really has been the West Side, and has expanded into areas that really deal with some. We've found a lot of intersect between health disparities and social disparities that exist in minority communities, but throughout Appalachia as a whole. And I know Darrell spoke to kind of being able to observe that need, or we started to sort of recognize that need way back with the dinners and the different outreach events that we would sort of build out into the community. But then when people would come, there's more similarities in the experience of living in low socioeconomic status and impoverished situations, similar to what you see within minority experiences. Except for when you insert the conversation of race, you see all of those things exacerbated because of what we talked about, the lack of access to fresh foods and the living with higher primary healthcare concerns and, that kind of a thing. So I think it's important to talk about one of the initiatives at the grocery store. I know Spencer mentioned one leg of funding was the American Rescue Plan funding, the ARPA piece, but we also were able to work with the Jobs and Hope program to sort of round out that funding so we can create what we call it's their Creating Recovery Employment Initiative. So the work environment will support long-term recovery and promote positive mental health drivers. And I think just to expand on that, that's what we're trying to do as a whole, is to create space within what I keep saying is the target community. And for us, that's been Charleston, West Virginia, and the greater Kanawha area, but also just Black communities in particular throughout West Virginia. And so we've been trying to think about how to reach those communities on more of a regional level. We just want to be able to promote positive mental health drivers by recreating the model that promotes access to trauma-informed practices, because we were the first in the state as far as we knew. We looked, and we're proud of the focus of the practice, which is inclusiveness, trauma-informed practices, and cultural competency. But of our 10-person staff, more than 90% of that staff is Black and minority. We're all professionally trained therapists on all different kinds of modalities and strategies that we like to bring to the table. But for example, mine, which is, I like to use, it's called irrational emotive behavioral therapy. And I won't get too lost in the weeds with that. But the whole idea of it is that, activating events are connected to your thought processes, your emotions, and your outcomes or consequences. And so what I think one of the things that happens when you work in low income communities is that you focus a lot on the lack of resources, but forget about what that does to the aspirations and sort of resiliency of the people. And so in order to move forward, some of the issues that we talk about that come up in Black Policy Day, and Black Policy Day is a space that I think is so needed for one, but didn't exist before, similar to the practice. And so without that, there is no space for these discussions. There's no space for positive convening. There's no space for understanding and connectedness. And so those things can be negative mental health drivers. And so what we're trying to do is just increase access to those things and the presence of those things within the state in order to, move all of those things forward. So I guess, like Darrell said, I don't want to get too lost on my timing, but I hope I answered all the questions and did what I came to do. I will leave. I saw somebody put the flyer in the chat, so I appreciate that. And I have a little screener that I think is interesting. It's really a racial trauma scale screener to help everybody understand what living with those experiences are like and how they can be impactful moving forward and impact community development really as a whole and statewide economic development. So I'll leave that screener in the chat.
Thank you, Alicia. And this is the information that we need because through time, through collectiveness, through knowledge, we, the community, are coming together and doing what we need to do in our community. And so we honor for you actually to create this space that you're actually creating for us. And we hope throughout the state we get inspired and people that are on here drop their information and their jewels of information, because it's through us working together and coming and having these information. And like you said, Black policy spaces for us to go to educate those that are in power, so we may continue to establish what we're doing in our community. And so when we're talking about going to our legislators and speaking to them, we have Kenneth tonight that is going to talk about being a civic engagement, building our civic engagement. And many a times we do not know the value of our experience, because we all are experts in our experience. So he's going to walk us through how do we take our experiences and position ourselves where we can have these conversations that we need going forward with our legislator. Kenneth?
Thank you, Dr. Smith. So my name is Kenneth Matthews. I prefer to be called Kenny. This sounds better. And I'm a person in long-term recovery. I am a justice impacted person, but I wanted you to see me as an advocate, as a helper, as a friend and a community organizer, and someone that cares about their state. Be quiet. Nobody wants to hear you. Nobody cares what you have to say. You're nothing but a number. Those were the words that echoed in my cell when I was at Mount Olive Correctional Complex from a correctional officer standing at my door. I had been into a little bit of an argument with him about how things that they were doing to us weren't right, because we are human beings. We are people that have feelings, emotions, that care about certain things and deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. Be quiet. You keep talking, I'm gonna take you to SEG. Those were the threats that were given to me as this officer continued on his tirade, trying to belittle me, trying to damage my psyche more and more each and every day. Because that's a method of control that they use to make you feel less than a person, that your voice doesn't matter, that you have no option but to just allow them to do whatever and to just exist in the current situation that you are in, because your voice is effectively silenced. That kept on echoing in my mind, and it kept reaffirming in myself over and over again. As I look myself in the mirror, I keep on saying, I don't matter. Nobody cares what I have to say. It's not important what I have to say. My experience, my trauma, my hardships, nobody cares about. And I go into the education department at the same correctional facility, and I meet a career development specialist who tells me, your voice does matter. Your experience does matter. You can use it to change things. You can use it to advocate for people that are still in the situation once you leave. Because the reality of the situation was that I was preparing to leave soon, to be released back into the community, back into the world that I felt no longer a part of. And that started the journey of me learning how to use my voice and learning how to find self-respect within, as well as finding the strength to carry a message where other people have fallen silent or have been hushed. I get out from prison and I'm worried because I don't understand if I can really do this. And I meet people that, a community of organizers, a community of people that say, hey, we care about what you've been through. We care that you have this story to tell and we want to hear it. And that's when I learned the power of community organizing. That when someone feels that they don't have a place within the world or within the system, that people can come around them, lift them up, empower them to change that system. After that, I was invited to the Capitol to talk about conditions within the prisons, to legislate against bills, and to try to change the narrative that people aren't successful post-release. And in doing so, I was able to stop some bad things from happening and help be the voice of change within the Capitol. Had legislators tell me, "You're unique, you're special. We don't see many people like you." I say, "Well, obviously you're looking in the wrong places, because I have 600 plus Facebook friends that are just like me, that get out and become successful and move forward and reintegrate and get connected into the communities that they live, and are fighting to change those communities, or even change just their own family structure, the history within their own families." Now, if we as a unit, as a community, don't lift up each other's voices, if we don't learn the power that our story and our ability to sing or raise the alarm on issues that are important to us and impact us, we'll continue to see high incarceration rates. We'll continue to see a rise in deaths due to substance use and mental health issues. We'll continue to see a rise in the people that are housing challenged and food challenged. We'll continue to see those things. But if we as a community get around each other and lift up those voices, we'll continue to see change within our communities, change within our legislators, change within individual families and individual people. So I know everybody here cares about community and society and our state and our nation in general. If you didn't, you wouldn't be joining in these webinars to learn, to hear things about, social, economic, justice impacted issues. So what I want everybody to do is to talk to whoever you feel has a decision-making ability within the issues that are close and personal to you. I want everybody to work on their own personal narrative, their own personal story, and tell that story wherever they go. Because the more these stories get out, the more these stories connect people, we start seeing that it's not us versus them. A lot of times it's us versus ourselves, because we, a lot of times, stop ourselves from creating the most impact. That's an example of how to make your story matter. That is an example of what I train people to do and what I've been trained to do and what I do time in and time again at the legislature. People think that, at the legislature, or people that are on county commissions and other, boards that make the decisions, that they have some sort of like magic formula that they use to make these decisions. But all it really boils down to is establishing that emotional connection with someone. You can give a legislator all the facts and figures that you want, but until they identify with you on an emotional level, that won't cause the call to action. That won't give that invested response and that investment needed for anything to change. That's what I've learned over the past couple of years here in West Virginia, that seeing people have compassion and empathy is the thing that changes, mindsets, changes situations the most. When you empathize with somebody, you really see yourself in them. regardless of what your background is or what their background is. You see your situation through, or their situation through your own eyes, and you feel the impact, you feel what they're going through at a molecular, in deep down inside basic DNA level. You feel that, and that causes people to actually do something. For the longest time, everybody, you know, we've seen the infomercials where you have the sad music and you have, you know, the person or the photograph of a child hungry, right? The reason they do that is because it establishes that emotional connection. Nobody wants to see a child hungry, right? Everybody wants people to be able to live and really thrive and have everything that they need. However, not everybody thinks that they can do something about it or knows how to start the process of doing something about it. That's where your individual stories come in. I see on this call a lot of people with great organizations doing great work, great mindsets. How many people know your story? How many people know a situation or a time that changed your view, your worldview of everything as you see it and caused you to do an action? My story began with a prison guard telling me I didn't matter. It continued when I found somebody that said I did. And they constantly repeated it until I started to believe it myself. It grew when I got surrounded by a community of people that said that I mattered and my story mattered and I can do something to change things. But it really didn't come full circle into fruition until I believed it myself. That's the power that community organizing has. It has the power to allow people to come and input that belief that somebody matters and that their situation matters and that they can be and do better before they even believe it themselves. So Jonna, I'm gonna ask Jonna to share this storytelling, the narrative part with everybody. And I don't know if she has the ability to send it to everybody in email, in an email format as well. But it's a basic outline of how to share your story. It's a basic outline on the story of you, the story of us, and the story of now. That's the three components to effective story. You start off by something personal to you. Then you merge that into the story of us, how it impacts us together. Then you transition that into the story of now. How does that influence what you do now? And at the end, you have a clear call to action. You have a clear defining moment that says, I need you to do this because my story, I talked about me in the prison, did the story of us when it transitioned into the community coming together and allowing me access, and the story of now, why is it important that we continue with this project of giving people stories out there. The reason why we put in that outline, because if you can answer those questions within those spaces or answer, you know, the go through kind of the outline process, your story can be done very quickly, firstly. In one of our trainings, we teach people how to share their story, especially with legislatures, in 2 minutes. Sometimes all you have is 2 minutes to get somebody to either change their opinion or do an action. So you can use this outline to formulate your story within 2 to 3 minutes. And it allows you to really focus in on certain things. A lot of times when someone asks us to share a story, we can go on and on about, something very specific, or not get to the story of us, or get to the story of now, or even get to the ask part. So this allows you to see the progression. It allows you to answer, when you answer those questions or continue to verbalize on those statements. When I was blank, from this I learned, this is why. I know you also care about this because now we're facing a problem. What is the problem that you see based off of your story, based off of your situation? If we don't do something, this will happen. But if we do, this will happen. Now I'm asking you to do something. The final kind of exclamation point, nail in the coffin, final thing. Give them something very specific to do and to follow up on. Because you can have a great story, you can have a great engagement and have people encapsulated. But what do they do after that emotional connection isn't right there in their face? What do they do after you walk away? That's the final piece. That's the end result, the end product. You want people to do something. You don't just want them to, feel bad for you. You want them to turn that feeling, that emotional connection, into an action. And I found using that model, anybody with any situation, whether it's hunger disparities, whether it's housing disparities, whether it's economic, whether it's dealing with recovery, reentry, or anything like that, you're able to motivate people to action. You're able to motivate people to change. And I think that's the most important aspect of the story, is getting people to do something. And I see it all the time at the Capitol and other engagements that I go to, is that people are doing stuff now. People are actively trying to make their communities and our state better. We just need to get better at the recruitment process of more people. So with that, I thank everybody for their time. Thank you, Dr. Smith, for inviting me to speak on it. I'm gonna put my email in the chat. So if anybody has any questions, or any organizations want to, have a training, because it's even great for organizations and things like that, companies, we can set up to where we can come in and do a training specific to your company, tailor-made to what your needs are for your organization. Thank you, everybody.
Well, we want to thank you, Kenneth, and we want to thank you for all your work that you are doing for one of the most vulnerable populations that we have out there. And I would agree. Sometimes, people think that their voice doesn't matter and everything else. And that's what we have to encourage them, because when one speaks and we get another one to speak, there's people that won by eight votes in an election. We can change the whole trajectory of the legislation. So thank you for that information. Okay, I do see that we're going to open it up for questions and answers if you guys have any questions, but I do have a couple of questions. I want to bring it out here and bring it to the people. The first question we have is from Jenny, and she says, Miss Allen, this sounds amazing. I live in north central part of the state, so I'm curious about your conversations about expanding to Black communities in other parts. Or have you considered having conversation with NAACP branches? Our Morgantown Kingwood branch has a tremendous health committee.
Thank you, Jenny, for that comment. And I think the question is, have I connected with NAACP at all? Yes, I have. And what we do currently, so we do have the partnerships with our county district, so we're able to work with our school and social workers and counselors. But we also work with local universities so that we can train interns and move them through their career path, be it school counseling or clinical mental health. And if it's both, hopefully, like I did, then we oversee them and provide them with training to allow them to stay in their communities and then connect with space in the area so we can provide telehealth or that kind of a thing. But I can also oversee you anywhere in the state. So myself and obviously the other supervisors that we have on staff. So we're really hoping to do that in the near future.
Right, thank you, Alicia. We also have another question here from Barbara Freisen. She says, this is for any of the speakers, so you guys can chime in on this. Your work, your experience, your voice are impressive and valuable, so she wants to thank you. I'm wondering whether any of you have written articles or opinion pieces for the many newspapers published by HD Media in West Virginia. West Virginia Public Broadcasting. If so, were they published? How else are you educating and encouraging support from the entire community? I guess that's kind of like a three-part question. Let me break that down for you guys. Have you guys had any newspaper articles published? I guess anybody want to chime in on that?
I don't know. I haven't wrote anything and like that. We done a lot of community outreach events all through the summer, just letting people know what we're doing and things that we're going to be doing. We worked with Spencer. We did a discussion at the farm to kind of talk more about what we was planning with the store. And we got some things planned for this summer and the spring that's coming up. We're going to be more out there, I think.
And I will say we haven't written the articles, but there's media
articles published. Yeah, there's been media articles published on your work.
Right. There are some media pieces that are published around some of the work, both opening the grocery store, some of the history of the community gardening pieces, the speak to the need in that specific area or school. And so we have, like I said, some of those. I think there's some newspaper pieces, some website content, and some news, not articles, but I'm sorry, it's getting late on me, you guys, but TV news pieces, whatever you call that. So I leave some of the newspaper stuff in the chat.
Yeah, and then she asks, how else are you educating and encouraging support from the entire community? And I think that goes to the work that Ms. Darrell Miller, Alicia, you guys were going out into the schools. You guys are pushing us out there and saying, tell, and talk about what we're doing out there in the community.
One of the things we do communicate with the parents in the school system. In Kanawha County, they use a platform, Schoology, where parents communicate back and forth with teachers and keep up with school schedules and that kind of a thing. We have a seat on that platform that allows us to connect parents in real time with clinicians if they want to have conversations with clinicians about how they can meet mental health needs in their home, some psychoeducation material that they can use for themselves, that kind of a thing. So we keep that space updated as much as we can and are able to connect our therapists with our parents and school staff through that platform.
And I just want to give some information to Ms. Freisen. Black by God, if you can get any articles from Black by God, I mean, she's going around the state of West Virginia and she's putting in work and she's telling some stories about the African-American community and the things that are being done, the things that the help that's out there and what to look at. So I would say if you can get any of her articles, any of her newspapers, they come out, I think every quarter, isn't it, Dr. Smith? Or like every 90 days, it comes out so many every quarter. But yeah, get some of those articles and read up on the work that's being done. Like Kenneth says, things are changing, maybe not as fast as we wanted, but we are, you know what I'm saying? But we got to stay steadfast to the movement, everyone. We got to stay steadfast to that movement and everything. And don't take our foot up off their neck. That's what I'm going to tell you guys. I'm just going to be raw. Don't take your foot up off their neck. And I'll turn it back over to Dr. Smith for her closing statements. And I want to thank each and every one of you guys for all the work that you guys are doing in our community.
I just wanted to interject real quick before Dr. Smith closes everything down, is that I actually have had a letter that I wrote to the House last year in the legislative session, actually read by Delegate Danielle Walker on the House floor in terms of things that they were trying to do for extended supervision, voting. I've also had op-eds published by different media outlets, such as Black by God last year, as well as Mountain State Spotlight. Actually did my first interview of me on the Capitol steps a few months after my release from prison in 2020. So what I try to do is, as far as community engagement, is train people to tell their story, to get out there and have their voices shared. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the podcast Our Voices, but I just recently got invited to share my story and work effort on that podcast as well. So I look forward to that, and that's just another avenue to help elicit change and motivate people to change. I think the best way that we can do it is each individually, talking to your friends, your neighbors, people you work with, and because we are the experts of our own lives, and we have the power to change a lot of things if we only choose to utilize that power.
Thank you, Kenny, and thank you for everyone for sharing in your wisdom, what is going on, and especially with your Spire words. But before we end, I'd like to give y'all a couple of updates and information. When we talk about building civic engagement, this starts from all ages, and the legislator have it to where our children from the ages of 6th grade to 12 can participate in the PAGE program. I'll ask Jonna to drop that in there to the PAGE program. I went to the Capitol with my niece, took her to the Capitol last week, and she's 15, and she said, Auntie, this is the first time I came in the Capitol at 15, and I thought I was about 40 the first time I came in the Capitol. So we build civic engagement when we can create spaces when we can get our youth involved so they can know why they're voting. They can know what actions they can actually use. So parents, teachers, if you don't have a kid, forward the link to someone you know, but it would be a great experience to get our youth in there so they can actually see and be a part of the system that actually affects their lives. Next week will be our last Learning in Action webinar. And if you want to see the ones previously, they'll be on bviiwv.com webpage. But this would be our last one. But the West Virginia Hub, it actually February 7th, is doing a training for individuals to prepare us for February 15th. So individuals that actually want to navigate through the Capitol, go speak to their legislators, have their pointers, make sure that they're equipped. So if you want to bring your kids and your family and everyone, we will feel more equipped. The more knowledge we have, the more power we have. So they're actually doing this training February 7th. Sign up. We appreciate them for this collaborative support. And as we continue to go, this is the beginning of us to continue to go, because we know we have to continue to go. This is a gardening efforts. Just like when you garden, you have to put your seed in there and continue to water. So we will continue to come together, water our efforts. We thank everyone that was actually here, everyone for being here. And lastly, there's actually the West Virginia Center of Budget and Policy is actually having a Zoom meeting tomorrow at 12 p.m. And West Virginia Budget and Policy in the Tuesday morning group is having a meeting to talk about the ARPA Rescue Plan funds and how they can be used to advance equity and go into communities that was hardest hit by the pandemic. So we want to be aware of the information and the resources that's coming to our community. And we also make sure we come on United Voice to speak. So if you can, I hope they tape it if you be at work, but register. And also you can register for Black Policy Day. We have the link in the chat. If you have not registered, we have limited tickets for breakfast. We're looking forward to see you. We thank you, and we will see you next week. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a good night.
You too.